Okay, just going to make a little video of my most recent project. So in general, I restore vintage Sony Walkmans, particularly metal cased ones by Iowa and JVC and companies like that. But I was shopping for a boombox for a new garage that I built, and I stumbled across this on Facebook, and it clearly is very vintage, but I looked up the model, and there's some interesting history to them. So what this is I don't know the year. It's either, I think, a 71 or an 1872, but it's a Sony CF-550A. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about it is some people call it the very first boombox. So, prior to this, there were cassette players, there were clearly radios, but what there wasn't was something that could be battery powered and stereo with stereo microphones and a radio and cassette. So I have not cleaned this up at all. When I bought it, it was great. It's a couple of older ladies that were retired, and they just go garage sailing, and they bought this thing, and they had it listed for really cheap. It was only $45 US dollars. So when I went there, they had a Glenn Campbell cassette in it, and the radio was playing. They just wanted to demonstrate that it worked. So that's all I've really done. I haven't even plugged it in and started to play it here yet, because I sort of want to assess the situation. But this is really just an introductory video to show what this thing is. It's pretty cool. It's obviously, in the era of Sony, when everything was just super solidly built. But it, has a radio on off. Tape, it does have normal and metal. It has a tuning and battery meter. I think when I was there, I was changing a station and I wasn't seeing the tuning meter moving at all. So either it's frozen or it's just not working at all. I'm not sure. Standard, really heavy duty knobs, volume and balance and tone. We actually, when we were there, we did turn all of those. Not surprisingly, the volume pot was really scratchy, but it did settle in, and it was, playing out a stereo signal out of both speakers. But, traditional cassette, got play and fast forward, and of course this does record, stop and rewind and eject. For the radio, it has stereo and mono, which is pretty cool. Tuning knob, obviously FM and AM, and AFC, which kind of controls how much it'll filter channels if you're in an area that has lots and lots of radio stations all close to each other. But and of course, apparently this is kind of novel to have a handle. Everything's all super heavy metal. The thing weighs, I think what it says is that it weighs 13 pounds, and I think that's probably about right. It is really heavy. So then it has stereo microphones, which is pretty cool. And what they did was, this actually has 4 speakers. So it's got a left channel and a right channel. And then on the side over here, there's a smaller driver that they send the inverse of the left channel to this right speaker, and same thing on the other side. And I haven't actually focused on it, but what it does is it gives you kind of like a surround imaging. And I hope I explained that right, but it's really unusual. Just to kind of finish out the little tour here, obviously there's a headphone jack here. I don't know this, but it would be typical that when you would plug headphones in, something like that, it would kill the speakers. It's kind of an either or, particularly if there's no speaker on-off switch. Back side, we'll just turn it around here. The antenna, I have the rest of it, but the antenna was broken off. That's okay. I actually bought another one on Amazon, trying to get the same length. I think it was a 27-inch antenna, which is a little bit on the long side. But I did find actually two of them, I think for like $8 or something like that. So there is, there's the FM antenna, there's another AM antenna, but there's actually a 1/8-inch jack for a remote FM antenna, which is kind of cool. Got a nice selection of ins and outs. You've got, remote mics. So if you want to, have nicer microphones left and right, there's a selector switch for a line in and mic. And then you've got sort of standard for a cassette player, line in and line out, left and right side. And then this is another weird thing. So this radio has, most prongs are 2 prongs, a plus and minus that go to an outlet. This actually has 4 prongs. And, after reading a little bit, one of the things that I found that was really interesting about this one that I got is that it has the original factory Sony cord. And if you look at it here, there are 4 holes. Now, this cord has the 120 volt standard, at least for the United States, plug on it. And the way this works is 2 of these prongs are, it's actually right there, 120 volts. The other 2 prongs are 6 volts. And so what they did was on this cord, only 2 of these are active. 2 of them are just going along for the ride, and this is to plug it into the wall. Then they had another optional cord, which I don't have. My guess is impossible to find. It has the other pins powered, and it has, it must have a little transformer in there because it is for 12 volt for a car, cigarette lighter. So you could plug this other cord into your cigarette lighter, get 12 volts, it transfers it down to 6 volts DC, and that's just pretty cool. Let's see if I can, just for posterity, zoom in on here. Looks like 81224 for a serial number. Obviously, this is in the era when I believe everything that was Sony was all made in Japan. Let's see. So having the cord was a bit unusual. Also, this was kind of interesting. It's an iCAD battery pack, which I didn't even know they had in 1972. But it's a Sony BP8H iCAD battery pack. Obviously, I haven't tried to... Oh, and the radio has a charging circuit. So what you can do is plug it into the wall, put the battery pack in, and, because it has separate pins, it can actually charge the battery pack if it's plugged into the wall. That's just really cool. So I'm going to look in the battery compartment here, because, of course, this is the drum roll thing of anybody that restores and collects old electronics. Is the battery compartment completely corroded because someone left old alkaline batteries or old heavy-duty batteries, but this one is not at all. It is, my lighting's not the best, but it's really clean in there. So I got lucky there, for sure. That. And then finally, the last thing that is a little bit unusual about this one, I didn't really think about this till I started to read is that, you know, most modern boomboxes, either all of this stuff is plastic or it's vertical. And on these radios, it was a flat horizontal surface. And so over the course of 50 or plus years, these would get all scratched up. But this unit is actually, it's dirty. It's actually quite dirty. Can't really see that, but it's not tremendously scratched up. So that is pretty cool. So the fun fact on this guy is, and the story's online, but famously, Tom Petty had one of these, and he talks about how he used to, because it's got stereo mics, he used to record band practices and play back and just to review, how things were at practice. So I don't know if that's, in the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers era, or if that's the Mud Crunch era. I'm not sure. I was actually going to do a little homework sometime and see if I can find any Tom Petty recordings that he recorded on one of these things. But there's a couple of other famous musicians that really like this model. This actually, as cool as it is, was not the top of the line. I think, no, I'm not going to get this right. It was either 1975 or 76. They actually came out with a CF-550 that was more power. I don't recall if it had any more features, but it looks like something that would be, the top of the line model. I think those listed for something in the order of $400. I think these were maybe $200, which was an awful lot of money for a radio in 1972. But I know there's not much online on these on restoration. So I need to decide, do I actually want to try and document this a little bit, start to finish, just because there's not a lot of content out there. I think I'll try.